Call the workshop of Tuesday, May 17th to order, and we've got a couple things to get through on the agenda, so here comes Mr. Soto. So there are four of us here. One of us is got a personal conflict and will not make it tonight, so it's the four of us that are here now. So, Clyde?
Thank you, Mr. Thacker. Tonight we're going to go over give you an update on the high school at Boggy Creek. Shingle Schultz has prepared a nice presentation to go over, and then we'll have some Q&A time. I have requested from Dr. Pace that after we get done with the high school, I need about 5 or 10 minutes. I want to just brief the board on what we're looking at doing at Celebration High School for the athletic fields out there. That's going to be a project that we're going to fund for the coming year, but it's something that we really want to express what we're doing and keep you abreast of what we're doing. And then when we're done with that, Mr. Boyd and Dr. Esposito will give you an update on the legislative sessions and how that is in regards to choice and charter. So with that, I'm going to ask John to go ahead and bring his team up, and I'm going to kind of scoot over here and let them do their presentation.
Okay, we've put together a quick presentation. It'll be short, but it's mainly to show you what the school looks like now and where we are in the budgeting and the estimating phase of the project. I've asked him to hand out the handout ahead of time so you can go along with it.
Thank you. I don't know who said that.
And it's actually numbered, these numbers on it. And Joe, you guys going to start?
And I will tell you that this has truly been an example of the CM Architecture District partnership work, in that we've been working closely with John and his team, Schinkel and Schultz, as well as Gilbane, to try to bring you what we believe would be a quality high school at not necessarily the price we wanted, but at really what we believe at this stage of the game the market will bear. So that's kind of where we are.
And you're going to start?
Yeah. I mean, the first part of the presentation, we're going to look at sort of the design and kind of where we're at with, kind of layout of the site and the look of the project. And then Gilbane's going to talk a little bit about where we're at with the cost and where we've gotten to with that.
And
so
I did want to give you an update what we've been doing since the last board meeting. We were directed to try to reduce the cost of the bed structure what we could without touching student stations or program. So we went back and we analyzed everything in every building we have. And we looked at some areas that could be reduced in size versus some areas that couldn't be. We've altered some of the materials in the building and some of the window structures, but the effect is the overall look of the building hasn't changed. You probably won't even notice where we've saved some money on it. When we get to the cost estimate, we have a little more information on that. But right now, Schinkel Schultz is going to show you what the building looks like now with the value engineering that's been taken into it would look like. And then at the end of it, Gilbane will go through the cost estimating phase of it.
okay. So the first slide that we have here is a site plan. Joe, why don't you just kind of...
Yeah, if you look at the site plan, the first thing you'll notice is it should pretty much look exactly like what you've seen in previous board workshops. We haven't really made any major modifications to the site plan. We still have the high school pretty much on the west side of the campus. The area is available for the future middle school on the east side. We have been doing a few minor embellishments, I'll call them, improvements to the site, but nothing that's noticeable at all. The traffic light is, I forget the name of the road now. It's still in the same place. What's the name of the road? It's not Fish Camp, it's the one next to it. So it pretty much should look exactly the same as what you expect. All the ball fields are the same, the track is there, the courtyard is the same. And as we go through, David's going to show you the elevations, and you'll see pretty much it should match up with everything you've seen.
I got a question. I'm looking at this. If you go down to the very south corner to the left, there's this practice field. Do we own that land?
Where are you at?
We're here. This is practice field.
Yeah, that's an error.
No, that's not ours.
Yeah, they're looking
Yeah.
well,
Yeah, the labels in the wall.
No, there was probably an arrow.
Okay.
that
That
pointed,
didn't-
that pointed to those two soccer fields.
And before you start, just so I can have a better lay of the land, would you mind going to that picture and touching the orange things and tell me what each building is?
Right here is the front door. This is
Okay.
the administration.
That's admin?
Admin, coming around. Uh-oh, I touched it.
Oops, sorry.
You've got the gymnasium right here, which is associated
Okay.
with the athletic components of the campus.
Yeah.
Then you've got the three, always refer to them as the three three-story academic buildings along the
Okay.
back. On this end, you have the cafeteria and kitchen and
Okay.
central plant area. You've got the auditorium with the associated music programs in this portion of the campus. And then and finally, the media center located right here.
Thank you.
Where is the
I can
practice?
follow better as we go.
The practice fields are right here.
Where the basketball courts are?
No, right,
The
right.
basketball.
Oh, that's
court-
soccer field. Okay.
Yeah,
Those
those
are two
two
soccer
practice fields, you got
That's a
tennis
long
courts,
way.
basketball courts, softball,
okay,
baseball,
okay.
football stadium.
Sorry, that's helpful to me.
All right, well, and as, if you go to the next slide, which I've now messed up the screen. There we go. This is an image of the front door at the admin, right as you come into the school. And as John said, what the team has done, and when I say the team, that's inclusive of not just Shinkle Schultz, it's Gilbane, it's your staff. As John said, we've worked diligently to try and preserve the look that we know that you all want to create with this campus and make that statement, you know, architecturally about what goes on in this campus. So we've preserved that, but as John said, what we've done as a team is gone through and figured out how we can wring some efficiency out of it and provide the same look, but just in a little bit more cost-effective manner.
That's what this is?
And that's what you're seeing here in this image.
So let me ask a question. I'm looking at this image right here. It looks like I've got a glass atrium somebody's walking into.
Mhm.
Now, isn't that a very expensive proposition from an energy consumption perspective?
No, it's not. It can be dealt with very easily, and it's a very small space, just right in the reception area. It's not unaccustomed to see that on a number of schools that we've done in a lot of places, not just here. Okay. The point I want to make about these images as we go through them is that, as we said, at the end of this, there's going to be some discussion about estimates and costs and whatnot. Every one of these images in here is reflective of what is in the cost that Gilbane is going to go over at the end of this. So they're all reflective of all the revisions and refinements that we've made, and at the same time trying to preserve, you know, what we knew was important to you. So the front image here, you can see that the front door of the campus. If you go to the next is the what I'll call the front door of the media center.
Do we really need that raised glass atrium? I realize what you're saying, it's less expensive, but we got schools now, you can walk into libraries, they don't have, unless you got a 2 or 3 story in there, why do I need an atrium?
Well, you know, Jay, that's a good point. And actually, one of the refinements that we had was that atrium thing right there at the front went all the way to the back of that media center in the original concepts that we showed you. That part behind has been reduced and refined so that it is more cost effective. And at the same time, we're trying to be strategic only at the entrances to the main focal points of these buildings, the entrance to the media, the entrance to the school. We're going to look at the entrance to the auditorium and the gymnasium, where you can kind of be strategic and create the presence that you all want to create, and the image that you guys have alluded to that you want to create with the school.
This is going to be glass that also has got some sort of coating, so
Yeah.
we're not cooking
Correct.
We're not cooking the whole.
Correct,
Okay.
correct. Oops, sorry. For the audience members. There's the media center entrance. The next image is the front door of the auditorium. Again, the public gathering space where, you know, folks will come for those after-hours events into the media center, or excuse me, the auditorium. The next slide is the entrance on the other end of the campus into the gymnasium, into the lobby space of the gymnasium.
You want me to click?
You've already got it named and colors and everything.
Well,
If we can go back kind of one
Sure.
step, just back to the auditorium. This is a perfect example of what Dave was talking about. You know, before, this glass went all the way down that side, and then we scaled back on that glass and just did it right at the front, just so you had the visual appeal, but
but the rest
The
of it got
efficiency
some more efficiency
of getting
built
rid
into
of
So
the
is
glass.
that glass rated for 135 mile an hour wind for impact?
Yes, it is. It has to be by code.
Okay,
Has to be by
It's
code.
140.
Yeah.
okay. Thanks, Jim.
So as we go forward a little bit in the slides, now we're moving into some images that are within the courtyard space to kind of give you a flavor of what that area of the campus. You'll notice in this image, there's not, necessarily the glazed atrium space everywhere in this. And again, trying to be respectful of where we spend the dollars. Again, if you move forward, just another image as you go forward into the courtyard. Oops, I pushed too many forward. This again is another example of what Eric was talking about. Originally in the design, this entire piece that you see in gray here was designed and conceived to be totally out of glass. What you're seeing there is actually the majority of that is tilt wall with that light colored gray paint on it. It still has a fair amount of glazing, but they're punched openings, so again, more cost-effective way to get the same look and appeal within the courtyard. You also notice in the background of this image the rooftop garden learning area outdoor. That has been maintained within the program because that was identified as something that was important for the district to keep.
We are using some tilt wall construction here.
Yes. Yeah, that's the premise of the entire campus is that it's going to utilize tilt wall construction all the way around. So the next image is just from a little bit different perspective of that roof learning area, outdoor roof learning area. And then lastly, again, this is kind of a bird's eye view of the overall campus. And again, the team has been pretty diligent in trying to maintain the look, but as we've alluded to a couple times already, that looking at ways where we can get you the most bang for your buck and not be wasteful of the money on things that aren't going to necessarily have the kind of impact that you really won't get the benefit of. So if there's any more questions about that, I'd be happy to answer them, or we can move on into
The two buildings on the right and left on the back, are they connected so you don't have to go down and back
Yes.
up? They are.
Yes.
I don't see that on here, but I guess I'm missing it somewhere.
There's a crossover, if you will, on both the second floor and the third floor that go from this building through this building, down the interior corridor and into that.
So it
building.
is there.
It is.
Both on
Okay.
the second and the third
Yeah,
floor.
the visual
or
looks like
levels.
Yeah, the visual looks
Yeah.
like it's just a canopy and it's open with stairs coming down.
Well,
there is a walkway
Okay.
I can
back
show you
there
the floor
behind
plan
that.
later
No,
on. We
that's
have it in
fine.
the backup.
Because I know it's one of the complaints you get. I was out of school today that does not have
You
that.
have to go up and down,
Yeah.
up and down, up and down, yeah.
Wellness plan. It's a part of our wellness plan.
Wellness
what it
plan, yeah. What about the school board member plan?
We don't go to the schools.
So we're ready to get into the numbers?
Page 13 looks like where we're at.
That's where we're at. So, as David had mentioned, we spent a lot of time with Schenkel Schultz and with facilities, really trying to look at the efficiencies of the building. We didn't want to cut program. That was off the table. We understood that. And so the challenge was where can we pull dollars from? How can we make this building more efficient? So we looked at several different items, matter of fact, pages of items. Some of them were acceptable, some of them were not acceptable, but some of the stuff that really you're not even gonna see, some of the roof lines and the roof material that you'll never see, we scaled back on that, made it more efficient. Some of the corridor sizes, no reason to have 12-foot corridors when we got plenty of circulation with 10. Looked at reducing that pulled square footage.
When you pulled stuff like roofing, we still got equal quality though. We didn't just
Absolutely,
Yes.
no doubt.
Maybe Assume we did, I
Maybe
just
a better
wondered.
way to say that is we had an awful lot of standing seam metal roofing that you wouldn't really see because of its location on the building. So we pinpointed where to spend the money, which was at the entrances where we still have the metal roofing, but we're using single ply roofing everywhere else, and so we just changed the roof design so we could continue that single ply and get that cost effectiveness.
An example of that would be right here. I mean, in the original design, that entire length of the building was metal roof.
Okay.
And we were using curtain wall to get that clear story. And the reality is when you're actually in the school, you'll never see that. You'll never experience that. So why not go to a little bit less expensive roof, still same quality,
Okay.
provide a watertight roof, and go with some punched openings that will be more cost effective and still give you the same interior effect within the space.
Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, we've gone from 12-foot to 10-foot wide hallways. Let me ask a question about that. We're building a school, about 3,000 student stations. And let's say growth happens and nobody wants the school to get bigger than that, but we gotta add a bunch of portables, we get to 3,500, maybe even 4,000. I mean, when you were at Point Siena, how big did you get at Point Siena? About 3,300 at one point?
When I was there, it was about 2,800 was max.
Okay, but you were inching up to that. So this school, we're designing it for X, but it's gonna end up being X plus at some point. So tell me how having 10-foot wide corridors, either from a principal's perspective or from a use perspective, makes sense when we know, number one, we're building a school with greater capacity than ever before, but number two, because of growth, we're going to exceed what the building is used for at some point, and nobody knows when that'll happen, and when it does, how long we will until we can build a relief school. So, and again, I'm just sitting here to playing devil's advocate, I'm wondering.
But I can tell you as a principal, Jay, because Point Siena High School was most assuredly not designed for 2,800
Right.
student
Oh, I
stations.
know.
I think it's about 1,900, maybe
Back then it was probably
1,800,
1,600.
yeah. And where you feel the squeeze is not in the corridor spaces, because you're carrying that traffic outside.
Sure.
Where you feel the squeeze is in your main capacity places like the auditorium, the cafeteria, the media center. And that you just learn to work around, you have to. That's a part
Okay,
of
that's
our
why I'm asking-
capacity
that's why I'm
issues.
asking that,
But you
okay.
don't feel the squeeze of that in a hallway because you've got traffic moving in other directions.
And
yeah.
The additional students would actually be in the portables, so the additional circulation would be outside, as Dr. Pace is saying. The hallways are designed for a full building. And just because you have more students on campus and the number of student stations, they're not going to necessarily be inside the building, so the building's full.
No, I understand, and logically that makes sense, although sometimes unfortunately logic doesn't always apply.
And Jay, when we looked at that, I mean, that was a topic of discussion.
Sure.
But, the decision was made, let's just cut it in the classrooms. We weren't taking that out of any of the other buildings, any of the
No,
core
no,
facilities. It was just a classroom
No,
building.
that's right, I mean, I haven't
Yeah.
seen this before, so that's why I got asked the question.
Yep.
Absolutely.
The other thing that may help is that this high school is not gonna have lockers in the hallways. So you don't have kids trying to get in and out of lockers when kids trying to bypass.
Okay, good point.
The other thing is to Mr. Booth's point, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, which is why we had 12-foot wide hallways in your prototype high school. Not gonna have that up and down anymore. Everything's gonna be a whole lot more fluid getting from floor to floor.
Okay.
So,
And
shouldn't feel it,
And
hopefully.
I would add to that I honestly cannot think of a high school we've done in the last 5 years that's had any wider than 10-foot corridors. At all different sizes.
And again, that's why we're asking, like, I hadn't seen this before, but I felt compelled to ask.
So the current construction estimate, last time we met, we were ending up design development, we're moving into schematic design, and so we've worked closely. The current budget right now, or the current estimate at schematic design is $75.7 million. So it includes all the program that we had before. Programmatically, the project hasn't changed. Student capacity, the project hasn't changed. It's really the efficiencies that we've gone through. The other item that I do want to bring up is the Liberty Gym. The gymnasium that we had originally was a much bigger gymnasium. But this estimate includes a gymnasium very similar to the Liberty Gym. the size
And
of
I
the gym.
asked that they consider that with the numbers, just to try to get us
Yeah.
closer to our budget. The Liberty Gym functions absolutely fine with a large student body. So it came back to, do we cut programs, or do we cut things that, can still work and give us the school that we want?
You've got a
That get us closer to our
I've
budget.
got a slide up that we don't have, so I gotta ask you about something we do have. Okay?
Okay.
You've got cost savings opportunities, which, that's not a slide you've got up, but again, you got a slide there, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, looking at that page, you're eliminating 1,000 square feet of auditorium space, but you're not eliminating number of student stations, so what are you eliminating?
In the auditorium?
Yeah.
Circulation. The original design for
So
the.
it's not only the performance space or rehearsal
no.
space?
The
Or the
original
testing
design that
spaces
we
that we
were
had.
working on
Okay, good.
had about a 2.5-foot high raise lobby.
Okay,
And then the auditorium itself in the back was 5 feet tall. So to get up from that 2.5-foot level up to the 5-foot level, we had internal ramps and stairs. Well, what we did because that's high-volume space, that's air-conditioned space, et cetera. We took all that circulation out and raised the lobby platform up to 5 feet, and we put the stairs and the ramps outside, and we're able to squeeze the auditorium and save all that conditioned
Okay,
space.
thank you. Then going down, eliminate non-essential accepted. First one, eliminate covered structure at outdoor basketball courts. Why do we want to eliminate that?
$310,000.
But you got freshman teams, boys and girls use it. I mean,
What we would like to do is. that
That's an
right
easy
now-
add-on though, right?
Right,
Yeah.
what we'd like to do is bid that as an alternative, and if the budget allows it at bid day, we can add it, and if not, it can be added, but it's roughly $110 per court. So it's about $310 to cover all three of them.
Can we cut through the chase a little bit? Of these things on here, and this probably several of you answer this question because you probably have different perspectives. Which ones are the one you go, gosh, I wish we really did not have to do that?
Me, it's a gym.
Yeah.
Shortening,
The-
small, or
Yeah, the smaller gym.
shrinking the gym?
I mean,
The gym was the one that we came to
That was the
last.
that was the very
Okay.
last thing we pulled off.
and that's the one thing that when I asked Mike Lisby when he was leaving, I said, you could do anything, if you could do anything different, a school this size, he said, Jim, and then I asked Gary Pricer too, he said, I mean, every principal I've talked to, you know, when you balloon your population, they said more gym space.
What is the gym reduction in space
About
savings?
$1.5 million.
It was
It's a lot of
significant.
money.
Okay.
It was very significant, but I can tell you, Jay, having been at Harmony High School,
Right.
the gym works fine. It's very functional, it's the prototype site.
In fairness, Dr. Pace, what's the largest population you had at Harmony High School?
1,800, 1,900 kids.
Okay, we're talking about 3,000.
I understand.
I mean, so I appreciate what you're saying, but you're increasing the population by X percentage.
But $1.5 million still allows us to
$1.5 is a
get-
lot of money. No, I get that. I get that. Going down to landscaping design, the budget there, are we doing xeriscaping at all?
Yeah. Zero, yeah, oh, absolutely.
Okay, okay, it
That's,
didn't say that.
that's one of your
didn't say
district
that.
standards,
Well-
to go with xeriscaping and with drought tolerant plants and all of those kinds of
The other
things.
thing
That's
we
what we
have to
need.
do, though, is we have to meet the interlocal agreement with the county.
That's true.
There's a lot of, what would you call that, frontage landscaping that's required.
I'm sure that they
So
would be
we're going
flexible,
to,
and they'd be willing to pay for anything.
I was gonna say,
beyond-
we are going to identify that, for lack of a better way to say, it, as an alternate, so that you know what the value of that is. And
Do that and let us talk to the county and possibly Tavistock and some others and see if we can get some business partner.
Right, and Dr. Pace, as long as we're on that topic, have we made any progress relative to the pool project Ricky was talking about?
My pool project?
Don't you remember? You're talking about all swim complex.
Sure. If we get it built, I'll take credit.
Well, I know you're lobbying hard for that, Mr. Booth.
It's not currently on the project list for the county.
Okay.
Well, I think overall, I really appreciate the fact that you did kind of keep, for lack of a better word, the curb appeal. Because I think it's extremely important to that neighborhood and that section.
I do
It's
think it's
important to us to compete and get people living on this side of the county line. So, what do you need from the board? When I talked to Dave earlier today, he was concerned if we don't get moving soon, we will not make our deadline to when school could open. We can have further discussion, but I guess I just want to get, what's the end point, so as we have discussion, we know where we're trying to get to.
I need consensus from the board that you're pretty comfortable with where we are on this particular project. It's gonna mean some adjustments to our capital budget, but, you know, Sarah and I will be working on that, and we think we can maintain the projects that we currently have planned.
Can you give us the extent of the adjustments on your, what are you gonna have to find?
A little over $2 million.
Okay.
Okay,
2 million on 77 doesn't, I guess,
75 stuff.
75. Can you also, can anybody put, probably you, a price tag on, we started this project a year ago almost, probably. I know based on, what I see on the news in Orange County and other places, subs are drying up, everybody's busy. I'm sure what a dollar's worth of concrete last year is probably $1.10. Of this, at 75 million, if we were kind of at 9 months ago year's pricing, would there be a difference?
There would be a difference. I think right now we're seeing probably about 15%.
In a year?
Yeah,
so
and I
you're
think
look-
Rick and I were talking about that.
So you're looking at more than $7 million increase. So I guess that's where I'm kind of going, I don't see, do you see that getting better or stabilizing? We need, how do we not be here having an $80 million discussion in 5 more months? What do we do to mitigate that?
Well,
I guess.
the key is we need to move forward. We need to get out of this schematic design phase, go through design development, and really put this thing out to bid sooner rather than later.
And we did
Because it's
have a
not getting any better.
consultant look at that. What is the going forward Central Florida and Florida, particularly for school projects? And he does have a report that he could provide you with showing the ups and downs of the construction market over the last several years. Unfortunately, the last one that he has was actually bid around 2013, 2014, which is, that opened in 2016 with the bid price, but you want to?
Rick has done some research for us, but the other piece that the team has talked a little bit about is that we potentially kind of have a window in between Orange County finishing some projects and then Orange County launching a whole bunch of projects. And if we can fit within that window, then the sub-coverage could potentially be a little bit better. But we are gonna need some direction from the board in terms of,
Board,
we're
I'm
comfortable with where they are.
I'm
move
okay,
forward.
you too?
I got a couple of questions. I'm gonna get okay. I got a couple of questions. First off, seeing where we are, it's kind of like, I know that we need schools and we need construction and in for a penny, in for a pound. Explain to me why we wouldn't want to spend the extra money now to expand that gym. Because we're gonna be between the community and the students, it'll get used. I mean, we're trying to save some money and what we got here is functional, and we can make work. I'm not questioning that, but why wouldn't we now? It'll never cost us less than it will now to do that. Why not?
Because we also need a wing at Quincyana, and if I squeeze any more for this project, we're gonna have to eliminate a wing.
Okay,
You
that's,
know, we've got
that's
this
fair.
pot of money.
Okay, no,
and it
that's
only
fair.
goes so far.
The next question I've got from, I've always wondered about this with schools in Florida. Now we're talking about a brand-new school, 3 stories. Why, and we've got to air condition all this space. Is there a reason why nobody uses ceiling fans,
There's several reasons
other
why.
than maintenance?
That's
Okay.
primary among them.
Okay.
They also, I think, in the past when they've been used to substitute maybe some comfort issues that you would design into your mechanical system. And when they're not maintained and they don't work, all of that comfort that they're supposed to provide you don't get the benefit of that. But the primary reason is the maintenance.
When's the last time some public school in Florida did use ceiling fans? Anybody know?
Tom, that's from your generation.
Watch it, Dave.
Well, I can tell you that's the last time what?
When's the last time a school,
I've never done
school
one.
opened with ceiling fans?
To answer that question, because I'm so freaking old, it was probably you guys.
Where, when?
You actually, as a district, at least in my lifetime, used to have a standard that required ceiling fans in all your schools.
How long ago was this? Before my
Very
time.
long,
Like
very long.
15,
I want
20
to
years
say,
Well, I've been here
Big strobe
I
lights?
want to say, like, okay, I believe the original Narcousie School and Point Siena Intermediate School opened with ceiling fans. I'd have to go back and check because I actually still have plans.
You think we
But
took
that
it
would
out?
be my first guess. Yeah, everywhere that I've
Okay,
been
okay.
involved in them, they have been removed. But I think that's about the last
So
time.
there's not a new and improved design for industrial institutional spaces? For the
Not-
UCF uses or something
Well,
like that?
yeah,
just
look,
like that.
there have been a few instances where in some high volume spaces such as a gymnasium, we'll put one of the
Monster.
big-
I know
big
what you're
giant
talking- I know what
fans.
you're talking about.
I know what you were fixing to say.
I know exactly. what
BA
it's-
fans
Yeah.
that to increase the air circulation, but those are usually done only in those really high volume kind of. It's not done in every classroom.
So cafeterias, auditoriums, gyms, I mean, is there a reason why we would want to consider those spaces?
You know, the few clients that we've done that for, they did it on 2 or 3 iterations of their schools, and then they quit doing it because they don't
Okay,
think they saw
that's why I'm
they
asking.
didn't get the benefit out of it that they thought they were going to.
We turn the air up to 80 and just turn the fans on?
How you operate the school is entirely up to you all.
To your point, Clarence, I'm good with this. And Dr. Pace, I appreciate your explanation why we don't want bigger gyms, we need that wing. So that's legitimate.
Mr. Soto, you've been waiting patiently and quietly.
Looks well. Good job.
I think you have your consensus.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I got-
Let's stay on
Who's the
target.
utility company out there, do we know?
KUA.
Okay. There's no rebates for that.
Okay, Thank you, team.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, John. I know y'all worked hard to get that.
They've worked very hard,
We worked quite a bit on
because
this.
they've had to come back to me a couple different times.
Don't give up on the gym.
Okay.
And we're still evaluating as we continue. We haven't stopped.
Well, how about a gym with a dirt floor that's bigger?
But, we'll continue all the way through design. We're not
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yep, well,
We want to have Ryan or.
What else do I have to look at?
It's like every, you ever heard that play, every play.
Oh, hey, Clyde.
Yes, sir.
Did you do the thing they sent me from St. High School about asking about parking? Did I forward you that?
That's a leased parking lot. We lease it from the insurance. Eric Godfrey. We're kind of limited on spending public dollars, so it's not our problem. We're trying.
But they said they would be willing to sell it now.
Yeah, we're
Could we
talking.
set a really good rate and then let them use it?
I would certainly buy it. We need that.
She's got to have it every Sunday.
Oh, but they already.
Yeah, they agree.
It's part of her
They let them
DNA.
use the auditorium when they have a big event or something. No.
She's just, like, it's part of her DNA.
All right, let's,
Thanks for allowing us to kind of throw this on the agenda real quickly. You may have seen on tonight's board meeting, there is an item for your approval to start looking at some drainage issues at Celebration High School. What we'd like to do is to kind of use this project as a little bit of a pilot in terms of what we're doing with our turf fields, and I'll let Ryan and Clyde kind of explain from there.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, one of the issues that we've encountered with the drainage, one of the opportunities that we have to take advantage of or to look at is a turf field in the stadium. And one of the advantages that this will provide us is the turf field itself becomes one big drain. So it allows the school, which is landlocked, for additional space to have practice opportunities.
I like to think of it as swamp locked.
Well, swamp locked. It's going to allow the school in poor weather, which we know we have all the time here in Florida when it rains. It allows them to continue to use that field all the time, minus lightning. On top of that, we've started to do some investigation into what are the opportunities for return on investment as we're moving forward. We believe that there are some opportunities through the FHSA, through Disney, overflow that Celebration's currently being contacted about. We've had to turn them away because the fields are just not in a position where they're usable or playable for these outside groups to come in. And when we do get rain, they're not even usable for our own teams. So it's something we're looking at and have addressed, and we're going to bring it to you tonight, but wanted to make sure you were aware of that. And
go ahead, Ryan, talk about the total cost versus the payback and the reinvestment.
sure,
We might as well look.
with a I don't know what are we going with the
I would
Worst
say
case
we're
scenario-
looking at going
worst
with
case
the
scenario
CM
would be-
risk to manage the entire project.
worst case scenario. We're looking at about 1.2 with a 10-year warranty on the field, and then in 10 years we're in a position where we have to replace that top layer of, we basically call it the turf, the carpet, which is a $300,000 fee in 10 years. The intent is for that return on investment for Celebration to be able to cover all of those costs moving forward with the ability to rent that field for the next 10 years. Because when we're not using it, we have the ability to rent it, because the turf fields today are such high quality that we can have student athletes inside, outside, wherever it is on that field and using that facility.
Does Disney, have they said we'd use it if it was there?
They're trying to
build
use
it, we
the
will
field
come.
now, so yes, absolutely.
Mark Dukes ran ESPN for years. We were on the Boys and Girls Club board directors together. I got an earful from him every month about how he needs an overflow field. He's using like Dr. Phillips Olympia. He doesn't want to use them, but he had to go there.
The location of Celebration is really ideal because it's right there on I-4,
Right.
close to those kinds of places for this
No, I
type
think
of
it's a great
piece.
idea as
The
well.
other thing is the campus itself is swamp locked, so to speak, and that they have the smallest area in total space of all of our high schools, and part of it is just unusable most of the time. So that's kind of been the issue that we've run into, and it's a long-term problem that I have said to the staff, fix it once and for all and stop just putting a little bit in that just doesn't ever really address the problem. The big key, though, is going to be having some discipline as a school, as a community, to say that $36,000 that we've been paying for annual maintenance on our athletic fees has to go in a savings account so that 10 years from now we can actually recover the turf. Because we can't, as a district, be on the hook for those types of things every 10 years for every school if that's the direction that we go.
So the question, okay, so
Over
based
time.
on that, if the athletic director, the principal, in cooperation with the school district, puts together the metric for renting the space out for, to whomever for X amount of dollars, does that come back to the district? Does it go to the school, or is it split pot, or we just don't know right now?
That's something that we would have to work through logistically. Currently, most of facility rental monies can stay at the school site. We
Right.
charge for electricity and
But this being
coverage for
anomalous.
people. But this this would be an anomaly because, like I said, we're talking about a long-term maintenance piece
I got a
that we
question.
have to make sure that we're responsible
For that
as a
number
district.
also, you and I have talked about this ad nauseum, Dr. Pace.
Yes, we have.
Does this also take care of the drainage and the track, and, I mean, that's.
That's what I was gonna go over when Ryan said the 1.2 million. We're looking at that as all-inclusive of doing drainage work around the
Okay.
practice ball field and around the football field, because it's all gonna have to go through a South Florida water permit, that the engineer will have to go and get.
Right.
That takes a little bit of time, so there's some time lag on when this will happen. And it will include all of the drainage repairs. They'll do the design and all of that, the repairs for the drainage, for the practice field over to the football field, and then the track.
So
It
that's about
includes a
800
new track.
That's about 850,000,
And
and
we're
then the
done.
300 for the
I mean,
carpet.
it's a lot, but it's,
That's your
No.
1.2 million?
Wonder why all the
No.
old houses are up on sand hills sometimes.
Well, and this is it's gonna take a little longer than we'd originally thought as we work through the process.
Sure.
But again, we're looking for a long-term solution that could potentially inform the way we work with all of our athletic
Rick,
fields.
you were
as
there
we
for the
move
St.
forward.
Cloud game.
Yeah, if you just pump the water off the field onto the road, because the road is like a river when it rains.
You didn't bring your pump, when you came to that game, you didn't bring your pump, Ricky.
No, I didn't.
I do think it's important to understand that the contract that we're bringing tonight is for the civil engineer work.
Okay.
And that will allow the engineer to go ahead and begin that process on permits. Understand, we can't do anything until South Florida releases that.
So,
They have to do that. So, I mean, it's not we're not turning dirt tomorrow.
so with the engineer then, once he gets the permit, okay?
Yes.
Would he be managing the construction on it, or so we'd CM it, we put out?
He'll have oversight of the drainage work, yes.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
he'll have a CA of that, construction or contract administration of that.
So he's basically our representative.
Yes, on the
Okay.
drainage.
Okay.
Now, there is some overlap there because this is new territory for us going with the turf field. So all of the underlayment and under drain for the ball field or the turf field that's going to be needed, that all the costs for that may be a little bit reduced. You know what I'm saying? Because you're getting all of this other drainage work. So while we're doing that, we can do the ball field as well.
Got it.
So, yeah, we're thinking, and we have not made a decision. We certainly want to get our new chief facilities officer on board to get him involved in this with Mr. Davis. But just from first blush, I would recommend we look at doing a CM, and you can get it done quicker. They assume all the risk and every bit that goes with it. If not, we can hard bid it and we can manage it ourselves. But a lot of moving pieces with stuff we've not done before.
Whatever
You know?
makes the most sense from logistics and financially.
And I was
Well,
really
once we get Mark on board,
Right, no, I understand.
he'll be able to.
I was
process that.
absolutely surprised when you start looking other districts that have turf. You know, Brevard has it, Orange, Polk has it.
I was-
There's a lot of fields out there that are turf now.
Deborah, where Brevard has it, is there truly the savings with that experience?
Yes, on the maintenance piece.
Maintenance, fertilizer.
Okay.
herbicide.
Is it already lined, like it's pre-lined football and soccer?
It'll be pre-lined football and soccer, and then they'll be able to line it for flag football and lacrosse, and those will be able to be taken off after the seasons are over. So you're going to have two permanent lines on the field, and then in-season flag.
Plus, theoretically, you could practice on that field and not ruin it, too.
Well, you could be on that field. The technology today has advanced just in the last 5 years. It's
I mean,
amazing.
that's
So
a
it has
huge,
potential for PE classes, practice fields, all those types
for
of things.
practice, that's huge.
Yeah, it's not like the old days where it's stay off the field.
Well, that's right.
I've got a game on Friday night.
Not just stay off the field, I'm painting, nobody else is.
Well, it really provides an opportunity for all your teams, because it is a stadium field. It's that stadium for not just football, but also lacrosse and flag and soccer and PE. They're
Right.
all gonna have that opportunity to be out there. Yeah, after a rainstorm, they can get back out there and there's no delay, which is gonna be a huge advantage to the programs.
No, that's huge out there.
I didn't stay for the second half, by the way, Jay.
You don't need anything from
I
us
did.
here, this was
No, we
information.
just
No,
wanted to
this
make
was
you aware.
informational of what the civil engineer that we were bringing tonight, it says for celebration drainage. Got it. There's going to be more coming about celebration. I just want you to know, Sarah will have it in her budget when she starts bringing that next month to you guys for the reading of the budgets and everything. That's going to be in the plan. So, but, we're going to try it and see how it does. The premium for the purple turf, though, I'm not sure what that's going to be yet.
We're not going there.
This part I never heard about before. That's not my doing.
That has to be a Jay item. Has to be.
Okay.
Boise State, right.
Thank you very
Charter
much.
schools?
Yeah, thank you.
All right,
Thank you, Ryan.
thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
It's gonna be blue.
And if y'all don't mind, if we can take about a
Clyde,
2-minute recess.
We can take
You
a
were
quick break.
kidding about the purple turf, right?
That's a joke.
Okay, I'm just checking, okay. I did not, that was a new one on me.
No, for the record.
I like to think that I'm in the loop on a lot of things, that wasn't one of the things I'm in the loop on. I was gonna say, that's an interesting cell phone you got.
You better be careful.
I'm looking, I'm like, wow, that one's got small.
You can get
I
us
know that's
all.
what you were thinking.
No, I wasn't. Thank you for bringing it to there, Kelly.
Yeah, you know that's what you were thinking.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Clyde.
Mr. Brown, you want to join us?
Mr. Brown, it's a pleasure to see you here tonight, sir. We're thrilled that you're here.
Okay.
We just took a quick break, a short recess.
We're on recess right now.
But I think the cameras are still rolling,
So I can say, I can cuss and say other
No,
than
you
I
cannot.
see. I'm joking with Ruben.
You doing okay, Mr. Soto?
I am. How are you doing?
Doing very well, thank you.
Yeah? What's next?
This is gonna be about the legislation regarding charter schools. I think the board had requested kind of an update once things settled down after the legislative session ended. So John and Sonia have put together some good
Since
information.
we get lots of emails when when John shuffles documents around in those folders and emails us every time.
Hey, what code are we supposed to use to even access that?
Your active directory username and
Like the one that I use for this?
Yes.
It's not working for me.
You know, it didn't work for me for a while, but it finally does now, and I don't know how I made
Maybe
it
I
work.
should, I'll try it again. Didn't work. So
Sign
you
it
know
in
me,
for
after
John's
trying 2 or 3
documents
times, I just give up.
on the SharePoint.
I can't get in.
Okay, we'll work on that.
Yeah, we'll work on it.
Okay, so the board had asked us to put together a little bit of an update on charter school legislation at the end of the 2016 session. So we're gonna turn it over to Dr. Vasquez and Mr. Boyd.
Good evening, board members. As you can see on your first page of the presentation and this slide, this bill where this legislation rests is a very large train bill that had 40 sections. We're only going to look at sections 5, 7, 8, and 14. Section 5 involves controlled open enrollment. This is, in this presentation, a 10,000-foot summary of the legislation. There will be more discussion amongst staff, of course, but I'll give you an outline of what it says.
Question.
Yes.
Just looking at that, there's no transportation tied to this, if they're going to a school that's not in their home zone attendance, correct?
From what I understand, it's not required.
Okay. Got
I'll
it.
just leave it at that.
Yep, that's all I need to know, it's not required, okay.
It's not required, and just for an extra information, we do have a control open enrollment plan. I post that on our website.
Mhm.
It will need to be revised to meet all the requirements that John's gonna talk about later.
And Dr. Pace, we've got no intention of providing transportation under these circumstances, correct?
That's correct. We
Mhm,
have
that's
talked,
correct.
if you remember from our strategic planning retreat, about potentially expanding our choice options
Right.
and potentially even looking at becoming a choice district, but that is something that we would have to work through over the course of the next year in preparation for the 17-18 implementation of this law, because it doesn't come into full effect until July 1, 2017.
You know, if we've got, I'll say this, if we've got capacity at a school and a family thinks that's best for their student, I've got no problem with that, but from a transportation perspective, unless they're going to a magnet program, School for the Arts, an IB program, you know, they gotta have some skin in the game too. They gotta be willing to get their son or daughter back and forth, and I don't think that needs to, if they think that that's something they can't do, then they need to reconsider what they wanna do and bring them to their home zone.
Understood.
Thank you.
Alrighty, on that note, we already covered the first bullet, so I'll jump right in. I'll jump right in and say.
For you.
Can we talk about the first bill? Because this is where I get a little concerned, if my understanding of this thing is right, that, let's just say it's a K school, somebody goes there through open enrollment in kindergarten, they're guaranteed a spot there for 8 more years. So we've got to make sure, in theory, our capacity projections have to be accurate 8 years out, or else we're in trouble. So that's one of the reasons I kind of wanted to bring this up was, I don't know much about what our capacity projections are one way or the other, but what are we going to do? Do I understand that correctly? One, if I'm wrong, that's fine. And two, what are we going to do to really make sure we nail our projections so we don't give up capacity 5 years down the road?
It is my understanding that there's no guarantee, just because a student starts kindergarten, that they get to stay there, correct? If capacity changes, if capacity changes, out of zones, or can be revoked.
The
and
original
you can send them back to their home
the
zone
original
school.
legislation had,
it had it in
once
there.
they
Once
were
you're
there,
in,
so
you're
let's
in.
make sure that's.
Well, I had the pleasure of being invited by Tom Phelps and Clyde Willis, and we attended the Central Florida Coalition for School Boards, and that was a big question among the districts. How each district is going to define capacity. And then you have to leave a percentage of that school that is available for capacity for growth within that area. So those are conversations that the school districts are having now, because before we go ahead and come up with the plan, which are the schools that we are going to identify, and then which are the schools that we're gonna offer as an option of choice based on capacity? Are those that are at 90%, 80% capacity? And then what percentage we're gonna leave for those students that are gonna grow?
There's no
within it?
guidance from this bill on that percentage.
No, and those are the conversations that we had, and we had a meeting from 1 to 4, and the conversations are gonna continue in June.
Yeah, what Sonia's describing is that the Central Florida Coalition districts have decided to kind of gather together as a team and try to come up with a common definition of capacity and how we want to handle this choice bill so that we can have some consistency across the region and fairness. I mean, it's in everybody's best interest to not close your doors, but at the same time to not open them wide open.
Give up.
So essentially,
Right.
somebody who lived right across the county line could say, I love this new Boggy Creek High School. I would like to go there.
Absolutely.
And we would have to take them and we would get their FTE.
Not,
Right.
but not unless we have capacity.
But
Right.
we probably will when it
If we-
first opens, I guess, I'm
We'll
guessing.
get FTE for any student, anywhere, just sitting one
So,
desk.
but now let me ask you this, because I know that this happens in some places where we have some charter schools right next to some traditional schools, that there's the jumping back and forth. So somebody gets mad, they don't like their history teacher at Boggy Creek, so they're gonna go back to Lake Nona. Are you gonna be able to do that jumping across county like that?
If we apply the same basis that we used to use when we have the choice with No Child Left Behind, once you leave that school and you went as a choice, if you want to come back, I will say you will have to apply again.
Okay.
And if there's
Okay.
space, then you can come in. If not, you lost your right to choice because you decided to just
So it
leave.
wouldn't be like that charter deal?
Well,
Yes.
you raised an interesting question on another totally different situation where we've got some troubled students that I'm happy here today, I'm not tomorrow, I'll go there tomorrow, I'm not where in our district, we can kind of control if there's testing or some stuff like that to be done. Do we need this Central Florida Coalition or our neighbor to say, here, we're gonna respect your rules, you're gonna have to respect, or these are the common rules, so we're not all going.
That is the
Yeah.
intent of the
Okay.
conversations that have started.
Yes, that is
Okay.
the intent, and also the intent is also to have not exactly the same time, but more or less at the kind of fluctuates a window when this can take place, and after that window is closed, we will not accept any more students. So it's not gonna be students coming in and out throughout the
So
year.
essentially, you're there for a year, because then you'd be putting a strain on, I guess, on the other county that you left. by saying, no, I want to come back. So,
Well, it's just like a charter school that closes, you gotta.
yeah, but I think it's different though. This is going to be a little
I
different.
think if you wanna go back, it'd probably be, you probably have a right, I don't know, we'll
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
work
that's
through.
interesting.
And that's
Yeah.
something we'll have to
That's-
work through Larry and his
Yes.
team on as we get more guidance through
Not a big deal.
FSBA.
That's why I wanted to have those conversations.
Right,
We can
absolutely.
Get
Yes.
questions out.
Alrighty. The last bullet on the slide refers to the components that are required to be in the plan, and the statute is cited. But one bullet that I want to make certain that we don't forget is, even though we define capacity, class size amendment still is in effect. So that governs this as well. So it's not a free-for-all, even though it does expand choice.
Well, that drives our capacity calculation.
Yes, sir. This section of this bill also requires districts to pay attention and charters to pay attention to different preferential treatment categories. Specifically for districts, it would be military families, foster care children, court-ordered changes in custody amongst children. Those would have to be factored in. The preferential treatment to groups cited here in regards to charters is a very lengthy list that's already been in the statute. And, awesome, thank you.
And if you have time available, you see the little flag, that is what section 10 of House Bill Florida Statute 1002.33, section 10 talks
that
about
Larry over there?
eligible students. Yes, sir. And one for
They're the
Charlie.
same, yes, sir.
So if you look on section 10, it talks about eligible students, but if you look at section D as well, it talks about all the preferential treatment or students that might take priority over in the charter school. So that's what I wanted to give you that information.
Thank you, Dr. Esposito. All right. Yes, ma'am. Speed it along.
All right, yeah, move along.
All right. This section also prohibits districts and charter schools from delaying eligibility or preventing participation in certain activities related to sports, of course. And that is to be determined, and it's actually in part separate because the deadline for it is July 1st of this year versus the July 1st of next year for controlled open enrollment.
Quick question. When the numbers come out for Osceola High School, is it going to be capacity? Is it going to be at capacity? I mean, here's what I foresee. That everybody who wants to be a football star is going to Osceola High School. Everybody who wants to be a baseball star, maybe it's not the same anymore, would go to St. Cloud High School. Everybody who wanted to be
Gateway.
softball would be go to Harmony or whatever. I mean, so just right off the top of your head, what high school is going to be open? None of them.
That's something we're just gonna have to
Yeah,
really work
exactly.
through this coalition, because it's,
Like-
as it
Okay.
stands
like
right
Nona.
now, I could technically play football at Osceola, play basketball at Poinciana, and play baseball at Gateway.
You could keep moving.
You could,
I like it.
potentially, or Lake Nona, for that matter. So those are things that we're
So
gonna
the
have to
smart
work
districts are going to
through.
figure out how to stack these teams up and win all the state championships.
We're gonna try to provide excellent programs in all
I don't know
of
if
our
that's the
states.
smart district, but there might be people who do that.
I understand, but understand where I was going with that.
It's a problem.
We have had principals here in the past that would probably learn how to play that game.
Oh, making that up.
I'll move along to the next.
I gotta believe Dr. Pace wouldn't allow that to happen.
There's a requirement in section 7 in regards to academic and financial reporting that is already in state board rule for charter schools, for charter applicants, and this is in regards to their history if they have, a system.
This
of
is a
charter
new
schools.
section that has been included in the new charter application. So the new model charter application has this section included in it.
It also allows an applicant to defer opening for 2 years instead of, I believe it was the 1 year before.
1 year, and what the position this district has taken is that we give every charter applicant a 5-year contract, and they can use 2 of those 5 years as a planning year. On the other hand, there are other districts out there that they have done it a little bit different. What they do is they give them a 5-year contract because that's what is in statute, and then they let them defer for up to 2 years. So they don't count those 5 as part of the planning. So in reality, they have 7 years. This board has always said it's 5 years and you can use 2 as planning. So We have been, historically, making that decision, but it's up to this board if they want to change that or not.
Is that pushing some construction and making things happen?
The reason is because of facilities. So a lot of the schools that we have right now that have been approved and they haven't opened is because of challenges in facilities. And that's why the state board made that move to give them at least 2 years of planning.
All right.
So that's sort of no change for us.
Yeah, for us, because we have been doing already.
Right. There's a prohibition against basic admission or dismissal in the student's academic performance. Our charter schools have been very good about not doing that. It's now the law. There's
a
also,
lottery.
yeah, there's automatic termination of a charter that receives 2 consecutive grades of F.
And this is the different between this and the previous statute. In the past, remember when we did a claim, we have to follow the 90-day procedure according to statute. Now they get a double F. They can request a waiver, but now they're automatically going to be terminated.
So we don't have to vote on it,
follow
don't worry
up the
about all
$90, the 90 days provisions and all that. So all that has been taken out.
I'm gonna be honest, I actually struggle with making the show votes for charter schools anyway. I mean, I really do, because if I'm gonna have the responsibility to vote for them to open, I wanna be able to have that same responsibility to deny one or to close one. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox.
No problem. Next slide. Charters are now allowed to provide enrollment preference for students who are attending a failing school, and that's actually outlined clearly in statute now, and that comes into play very importantly with controlled open enrollment. There's a provision that the initial FEFP funding is based on projected enrollment only if the actual enrollment is at least 75% of the projected. For high-performing charters.
Can you go back real quick?
Yes.
Failing school, is a failing school an F only, or is it an F or a D? What's the word failing mean?
It would, I would take it literally as an F, but I would defer to the attorney.
So we don't have any.
No,
Okay.
we
No,
don't.
that's what I just
No.
didn't know what was considered.
Yes, sir. So moving back to high-performing charter schools, there's actually some clarification language, and the most important thing is that the commissioner is now directed to declassify a high-performing charter school if they fail to meet the eligibility criteria in law.
And the language that they changed was because before there were some consequences regarding C schools, and that is not into effect anymore.
In section 14 of this law with charter school capital outlay, there's a revision of 2 of the 5 eligibility criteria, where a charter school must be in operation for at least 2 years instead of the 3 that was originally in statute, and it prohibits a charter school from receiving capital outlay if its most recent audit reveals any of the financial emergency conditions provided in state law.
It used to be 3 years, now it's 2 years, and they attach the financial emergency to it.
And as everyone knows, there's been a revision to charter school capital outlay allocation. Specifically, there's criteria that are on the second bullet where they can get weighted funding if 75% or more of a school students are eligible for free or reduced lunch, 25% or 25% of or more of the students are students with disabilities.
Do we have any of those?
75% or more free and reduced lunch is our Title I schools. And out of the 17 charter schools, we have 9 that are Title I
9.
schools. And ESC or SWD will be UCP, that they have, probably most of their students are.
And the weights of 1.25 and 1.50 are in those bullets for you. So what are our next steps? We need to convene a controlled open enrollment planning committee to address all of this new law. We also will continue the school district efforts to expand educational choices for our students and parents. And when it becomes available from the DOE, we'll review and apply their technical assistance.
Can you add one more step in there? Somebody please confirm one way or the other where a student that starts a school is either guaranteed to finish
Yes,
the
sir.
school or not. Because when we were at one of the things in Tallahassee and this legislation was going through, that was part of it. Dropped,
Yeah.
that's fine. I just want to
No,
make
and in
sure.
the summary it says, because they go back to
Yep.
the same vision of the No Child Left Behind choice, and it says that a student may stay at his school up to the highest grade
That's
that it
exactly
serves.
what it was.
Okay, I
The-
apologize.
yeah.
No, that's
The-
okay. I
The
just
issue
wanted-
with that is that going back to the framework of choice, then we can have some agreements, some parent agreements, some contracts that the parents can signed ahead of time, because that is part of choice. In order for you to be at a school, it's kind of a privilege. You're gonna have the opportunity, but there are certain things that you have to meet. And those are some of the things that we can put in place and the districts are talking about.
That's where I think our
Yes.
projections get to be so important.
Yes,
We have to
absolutely.
address.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for your
Thank you,
time.
John. Thank you, Dr. Esposito.
Thank you, Dr. Esposito.
Thank you.
Is that right?
Anything else in the workshop? If not, any other questions, board?
I'm good.
Staff, Dr. Price? We will stand adjourned until 5:30 for our regular meeting.
Did you call me earlier?